Hey, I'm Nick.
And I'm Ally.
And this is But Have You Tried from the David A. Howe Public Library. Can you guess what we're talking about today? A little spoiler on the front there.
Yeah, that's true. A little taster.
That's right.
For those who...
Is that what you say, a taster? I've never heard that.
You could.
I mean, a teaser, maybe.
Yeah,
it makes more
a teaser.
sense. We are talking about the ukulele.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ally's assignment this week was the ukulele, and we started with one of my favorite songs to play on the ukulele, and that was When Love Comes Knocking at Your Door by the Monkees.
I don't think I know that one.
No? Do you know the Monkees at all?
I'm not sure.
Just like a little bit.
It's like one of those things that, again, it's like if I heard it, I might be like, oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you know, like Daydream Believer or
Probably.
I'm a Believer, you know. Like,
that one I know. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So the Monkees.
I feel like we started with this just so that like we can like set the bar high and like clearly demonstrate to all of the listeners that like you know how to play the ukulele and I pretend that I know how to play the ukulele now.
Okay. When Love Comes Knocking at Your Door is from More of the Monkees. It was written by Neil Sedaka. I love Neil Sedaka. Like old school, Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, all that stuff.
It's
Good
just
stuff.
a fun
Laughter
name to
in the
say,
Rain.
though. Neil
I
Sedaka.
know. It is.
Satisfying.
Neil Sedaka and Carol Bayer. I did not know that was a Neil Sedaka written song until I looked it up for this episode. So you learn something new every day.
Every time you record a podcast.
Here on But Have You Tried? This was, I think this was my first practical application assignment for you because I've been sort of in like books and movies sort of wheelhouse. I think you beat us to the punch with the miso soup because that was a very tactile experience. I haven't had it since, and I did enjoy the miso soup.
That's
so
a shame.
I know. I got to get on board. So Ally's assignment this week was the ukulele. So hit me with a little bit of your musical past. Like, what have you taken lessons for? Things like that. Like, what's your background?
Okay, so I took piano lessons basically the whole time I was growing up.
Okay.
I don't remember when I started, but I'm guessing I was around 6.
Okay.
I did that a little bit on and off, like around the time that we were moving, etc.
Yeah.
But more or less until I graduated high school.
Okay.
I also took a little bit of voice lessons. We lived near Houghton College, and there was like students taking classes about how to teach people voice lessons who needed people to teach voice lessons.
Like when you go to a dental school to get your teeth cleaned.
Yes.
Similar principle.
Similar principle.
Okay.
So I did that. I think those are the only things that I've like taken lessons in.
Okay, because I know you play guitar.
I
but
play
that's
guitar.
Just, you're just a hobbyist.
That's basically self-taught.
Oh, okay.
It's like my mom taught me some chords initially, and basically like if I have a friend who plays guitar and I'm like, hey, I need to know something about how to do this thing with the guitar, I either look it up or I just like ask somebody that I know.
Okay.
And that's how we do that.
All right.
Which seems to be mostly successful so far. I still don't play bar chords, but that's more about the fact that I have the hands of a child.
Those are the worst. Okay, yeah, so I did take piano lessons as a child, but sort of half-heartedly because we did not have a piano at home.
Oh, that makes
it impossible.
Really hard.
You just can't do it.
You have to like go down the street to a random church to play it every day if you don't have it at home. And that's just so much work.
I don't know how young I was, but probably about the same age you were. Probably like kindergarten, but it didn't last for long. And then I took a semester of piano in college, and I really liked it. But I couldn't continue because part 2, like in the next semester, conflicted with my work schedule. So I just never really did it. So I can like plunk out chords if forced to. You know, I could do that very basically on a piano. Mm-hmm. How did you pick up the guitar? How did that happen?
So ages ago, our homeschool group used to have a talent night, a talent show.
Okay.
And it was like always a little bit in danger of like shutting down because not enough people signed up. Mm-hmm. So my friend Ellie and I, which we always confuse people because our names are like so close to the same, but not.
Ellie and Ally, boy, you guys.
And
have
we
like
used
an
to
Etsy
look
shop
extremely similar before she grew and I did not grow. Shout out to Ellie. But so we decided we were going to do a song together, and for some reason we decided that this should involve me playing the guitar, even though I had never played the guitar before.
Wow.
So I basically made my mom teach me how to play one song, which was only easy chords.
Okay.
Didn't involve any bar chords, obviously.
Yeah.
So we did that. And for a little while after that, I would like occasionally just like tinker around with it. But then in college, a couple of my friends all had guitars. And so sometimes if I went over to hang out with them and they were like doing homework, I would just like grab someone's guitar and start doing it and trying to learn more chords and things.
Yeah.
And I basically just kept doing that and then stealing whoever's guitar until I got my own last year.
Okay.
So,
didn't you get your guitar from Corey?
From
here
Corey,
on staff.
Yes.
Corey, who wrote the theme song to But Have You
wrote the
Tried?
theme
So you
song.
know she's good. You know she's good at music.
And she like the guitar I got from her is good. It's nice. It sounds good. So
Okay. All right.
It was a real win.
Yeah. So I always wanted to play the ukulele, but we'll get to that in a minute. That was one I don't know why. I don't know if it was like Elvis and Blue Hawaii. Like, I don't know why, but ukulele was always one that I was like, I want to play that ukulele.
So aggressively.
I know, but I never had one during the pandemic. So like, the heart of 2020, I was just, we were home all the time. I was antsy. I was like, now's the time to like learn a skill. And I'd always kind of wanted to play the drums, but I was like, I'm not going to play the drums.
That's so intense.
It's never going to happen.
Much.
Yeah, you
They're
need like
so
the
big.
whole big setup.
Yeah,
we just did not have. And so I was like, but bass is kind of a similar thing.
Right.
And so I got a bass guitar and an amp online. And I took this, I did an online bass course, which was actually really good. I liked it and stuck with bass for quite a while. And we were at a time where there was no instrumentalists at our church. Like, it was really low. And I was like, well, I mean, I could do a really rudimentary like bass, just like really simple. And so I started doing that like every week, or not every week, but a lot of weeks
Often.
in church.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, well, maybe I could play a stringed instrument. So I had a ukulele because it was a soprano. So it was like a tiny, tiny ukulele.
I
so
can't believe how tiny those things are.
It's really small. And so I've had that for a long time, and I kind of got it out and just I was feeling a little bit more comfortable with it. And I got that book that I mentioned to you last time and just kind of started working through it a little bit. So I was doing that, and then I started messing with the guitar, and I ended up really liking the ukulele. How was your experience like picking it up with your background?
I didn't find it too hard because it's like in some ways similar to guitar.
Yeah.
But it's like smaller.
Yeah.
And there's less strings.
Yes.
And so I was kind of like, wow. Here I've been like fighting with trying to again make my child hands reach chords that God did not intend for them to.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is so much easier. So I feel like there's definitely some like stylistic differences that I am not at all sure that I have like even begun to achieve. But it was definitely weird like going back and forth between the two of them. Because usually it's like, all right, I'm going to, like try the ukulele a little bit. And then it's like, I'm going to play the guitar, which I can actually play. But then every time it would be like, oh my gosh, this is so big. Yeah. There's so many strings. And it's just like the sound is just like so much more, I guess, which makes sense. But every time I was like thrown and I was like, what am I even hearing?
Yeah. I think for me, the bass really opened up a different way of thinking about it because my wife got me the first ukulele. She got it at this great music shop in Corning, New York, and I loved it. And I had a DVD that was like, I'll teach you how to play the ukulele.
That's fun.
I tried it and I don't know. I couldn't do it. And I realized in hindsight, I was really overthinking it. I was like, I must make music from this little piece of wood. I was just not thinking about it right. But playing the bass, like especially like really simple early bass patterns and stuff, you really just kind of like put your finger here and then go boing, and that's it. And so when I picked up the ukulele, I started looking at chord formations and stuff, and I was like, oh, so a C, I just put my finger on this one string and then just strum.
Right.
And something about making that transition, I think I looked at it a lot more mechanical and was just like, oh, so I just have to remember where to put my fingers.
Right.
And then I was like, okay. And
this
it really,
is achievable.
honestly, it really like the second time I picked it up, like with that mindset really worked for me. So
that makes sense. Yeah. I have to say the fact that like a C and some other chords on the ukulele
like
is just like
some
one
of the most
string.
Common.
I'm like, this is incredible. And also how can this be true?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not working hard enough for this.
I mean, if you can play a C, an A minor, an F, and a G7, you can basically play any song from the 1950s. And a lot of
and that's all you need.
I know, but like even a lot of modern pop like really stays within that. I mean, you're going to have to throw in a D and like A's and stuff like that, but you really can get away with a lot with a little on the ukulele. And I think but you're absolutely right about like bar chords on guitars.
They're so
hard. And even, when you're playing like a D chord on the guitar, you're skipping several strings and stuff. And that's always like an extra step. And unless you get really in the weeds with complicated chords, you're playing all the strings in the ukulele. Bar chords are simpler.
I feel like I could maybe do a bar chord on ukulele.
Oh,
I didn't
definitely.
try. I probably should have. But I was like, I just don't feel the need to.
Yeah, well, like a D or a D7 is basically a bar chord. Like in
See,
ukulele.
I would play a D just with all my little fingers together because they're so tiny that it's just as easy.
Okay. Rather than just like putting a finger. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. It is interesting to switch back and forth because you're right. I mean, the heft of a guitar after you're playing the ukulele is it feels like you're holding like a 10-pound mackerel or something instead of.
Well, it's like my arms are not very large. And so it's like sometimes trying to reach around the body of the guitar to actually strum it. I feel like I'm just like hugging a tree or something.
Well, the guitar I have is big. Like, I really like it. It's super cool. It's blue. It's got a great look, but it's big. And after I got really comfortable on the ukulele, I got a little green guitar that's it's Loog. And Loog is this, you can get like 3-string guitars that are like kind of like intro for kids. And then they also have a classic style guitar, but it's very small. Like it's not much bigger than a baritone ukulele.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And it really, that's what I played when we did the Elvis, did the Elvis reel.
There does exist a video of us singing Elvis.
That's right.
While Nick plays this green guitar
right.
in the world. So go find it.
But because of the size comparison, it was a lot easier for me to jump on the Loog than it was like to jump on a full size like mammoth guitar.
Yeah. My gosh.
It's too much. It's a lot. It's a lot. All right. Do you have some ukulele facts? Can you hit me with some facts? I do have some ukulele facts. Okay, I'd love to learn.
So I found this very interesting article from The Atlantic called "The Rise and Fall and Rise of the Ukulele."
Okay.
Which gives some general history of the ukulele and its popularity, etc. And I discovered some interesting things.
Okay.
Namely, the ukulele originated in Europe, but then was introduced to Hawaii in 1879, which I thought was interesting because I feel like it's so strongly associated with Hawaii. The idea that it originated somewhere else, I was kind of surprised.
I know.
But here's a little bit of what it says about the origins of the ukulele. A Portuguese immigrant named João Fernandes jumped off the boat and started strumming and singing with his branguicha, a small guitar-like instrument, sometimes called the machete, which I thought was interesting.
Yep.
The crowd of Hawaiians were so impressed by the fingerboard prestidigitations that they called the instrument ukulele, which translates to jumping flea, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah, I like that.
Right?
I mean, you are bouncing all around when you're doing
it. It does kind of feel like a flea.
Yeah.
Fernandez and the instrument became a local sensation, and the reigning monarch, Kalakua, even learned how to play it. By 1900, the sound of the ukulele was ubiquitous across the islands, or is pronounced by Hawaiians as ukulele.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of a fun story.
I was digging into it, too, and I was really surprised to learn that it was Portuguese. But, I mean, in a way, it makes sense when you think of those, like, I feel like a small European guitar is like, like we've all seen that. We all know that.
Right, exactly.
The cavaquinho, which it's another Portuguese guitar, looks very similar to a ukulele, but it has more of like the size is ukulele, but the build is a little bit more guitar, and you play it with steel strings instead of like...
Steel strings are so intense.
Yeah. For sure. But now I need to have one. I got to track one down.
Fair enough.
And learn how to play this. But now the one that we have for the library here, I'm pretty sure is a tenor. I have a concert. So I have my soprano, which is here in my office, and I have a concert. Yeah. And this one, I think it's just a little bit bigger. Like,
I could definitely
a little wider.
Believe it being
looks
a tenor.
A little bit more guitar-like, and it's like, especially the width at the bottom and stuff. So I do think that's a tenor. I have a baritone, which is really cool. The baritone is big, and it's a deeper sound. The lowest, you start with the lowest string instead of high. It's really cool, and it's tuned differently. It's tuned like the first 4 strings on a guitar, but the same chord patterns work.
Huh? That's so weird.
Yeah,
it's weird that it doesn't feel like that should still work.
Well, I mean, you couldn't, like, if you were playing this and you were playing a C and I was playing a C on a baritone, they would not match. You know what I mean?
Huh.
So it's like.
So is it that it's like transposed somehow?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know some instruments will just pretend that things are C that aren't C.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends in high school, I think, was learning to play the clarinet. And apparently the C on a clarinet is a B flat on the piano.
Yeah.
And so we played a couple songs together, but it always you had to find either sheet music that was designed for it or do very complicated.
Yeah.
Making everything work.
But trying to play the baritone, I mean, somebody who's a trained musician on the baritone would be able to do this easily, but whenever I'm trying to play with my wife playing piano or something like that, we always have to figure out the transposing, what it is, and then play different. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, but I could see that.
But the baritone is nice because you do get a richer, deeper sound, and it's just bigger, so it's kind of easier to make some of the chord patterns and stuff. Because honestly, on my soprano, it's like a doll's guitar. I'm just bing, 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 little tiny. It's really hard.
Oh, boy.
It's really hard. The most common tuning is G, C, E, A, which is what this one is tuned to.
And do you not know that as My Dog Has Fleas? Because I feel like I said that to you at one point when you were doing the House Things.
My dog has fleas? What does that mean?
My dog has fleas.
Oh, no,
that's how you check and see if it's tuned correctly.
You have to know the little song.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're playing on a baritone, obviously it wouldn't work. It would be
No, it's E, A, D, G on a baritone, and so you'd have to...
You'd have to
change it.
It'd be like fleas, but a totally different
change the song.
Totally different sound.
So I mean, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about it compared to the guitar? Do you see yourself playing the ukulele again in the future?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was really fun, and now I kind of want a ukulele.
Right?
Which I kind of thought that might happen.
Yeah.
So, well, and one of the things I really liked about it is that I feel like it's just like immensely portable.
Yeah.
And so it's like I love going outside and just like sitting in the park in my hammock and that kind of thing. And I feel like you can do that with a guitar, but it's like so much more of an investment.
Yeah.
And so the idea of just like having a tiny little instrument that you're like, I'm going somewhere, I'll just bring it. Why not?
I know.
I thought was kind of fun and cool.
Yeah.
So, although I will say, I feel like when I play it, I have to like scooch one of my legs up to rest it on. Otherwise, it's like falling, and then I'm falling, and then
Well, this one, the one that we have that we bought for the library during the pandemic, actually has pegs for like a strap, which I've never. My baritone has a strap, and it's nice. But like trying to play the concert of the other one. Yeah, you do have to kind of like, it's weird. But you're right. I mean, the portability is super cool. My son and I just went on a little camping trip, and I took it. And, you know, like I just played some songs and stuff, like when we were sitting around the cabin and stuff. And I wouldn't have taken a full-size guitar, you know, but having like the little ukulele is really nice. And like I have the one in my office because I'm a nerd. And then I have like my two at home. But it's perfect because the first one was just a stringed instrument gateway drug. Because now look, all these things I could buy.
That's true.
You know?
So many opportunities to spend money on stringed instruments.
Yeah. It's such an interesting experience because, like, you know, I grew up singing and stuff and like musical theater and things like that. Like, you know, I've sang a lot, but I could never sit down at an instrument and play it. Like, that was just completely foreign to me.
And some people just can. They'll just be like, oh, you want to sing, you know, Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen? I got you. And I'm like, I
can
understand.
play that on a ukulele, just in case you're wondering.
I'm glad to know this information.
But I feel like, you know, because I'm not like a young person, you know what I mean? So like,
I mean, you're kind of young.
Thank you. But, you know, I mean, I'm 40, and to like now for the first time really be able to like, you know, I'm just going to go and like noodle on an instrument is just a completely new experience for me. And I find it so, it's like there's something both relaxing and kind of freeing about it, just to be able to make something, you know, just to like kind of like sit down and.
Well, and like music is supposed to be just like really good for your brain on like all kinds of levels that I don't fully understand. But
and I think, I mean, it's so cliche to be like music is its own language because of course it is, but I think there's something about getting over that first hump because really none of the skills that I picked up playing the bass are directly like, oh, this is so helpful now that it's a ukulele, but just like getting used to the idea of like holding an instrument in your hand or like putting your finger on a string or whatever. Like once you just like, at least for me, like once I was able to kind of get past the concept in my head and just do it, it's made me feel a lot more like, well, like let me try something else. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how
anything's possible now.
Yeah, that's kind of how it, like I've been playing the guitar a lot more, and I've started like messing with the piano again with chords and stuff because it's just like once you have the concept and the sounds like in your head, it just makes it a lot easier to.
And I feel like it is kind of addictive.
Oh, it is
like,
for sure.
It's like so it's like from my experience, it's like, well, I can't really play a piano for the most part unless I go somewhere to play a piano. But it's like, well, then I had my guitar, and so I was playing that all the time. Yeah. And then I was like, well, now I want to play the piano more, so I need to like go to this place where there's a piano and play it. And like I definitely feel like it's something that it's like once you start doing it, there's just like more and more things where it's like, well, now we need a ukulele and a banjo, and let's just, you know, I'm going to be a one-person marching band. It's fine. Yeah.
You're exactly right. We were in the Perfect Blend coffee shop in Cuba. Have you ever been there?
I don't think I have.
Oh, it's cool. It's nice. It's right down the road from the Cuba Library. Great library.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Tina. But we were there, and there was a guitar there, and it was just like, feel free to play the guitar. So my wife and son were like ordering, and I sat down and just like played a song that I knew, just like quietly. It was no big deal. My son comes up, and he's like, of course, you would find the one guitar in this whole place and play it. And that is just
hilarious.
Sort of like a thing.
I can also just hear him saying that in like a sassy tone of voice.
That's
the
only
really
that's the only tone that he has, so that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I really like it. I still always like gravitate back towards the ukulele, and it's what I'm best at. You know, like I'm very rudimentary on guitar and things, and I feel the more chords you memorize, the less you have to like look and be like, what is this again?
Right, exactly.
You know, it's just more tools you have that you can like mess around with.
Exactly.
So I like it a lot.
I feel like there's been a huge ukulele resurgence in the last like decade
is it hipsters?
or so. I think it might be hipsters.
You can tell me.
And this is what I was expecting the Atlantic article to be around. Maybe. Also the song Riptide by
whoever sings Riptide.
Whoever sings Riptide. Yeah. I feel like when I was a kid, ukuleles were like this like fancy special instrument in my mind that like people didn't just like have and play the way you have and play like a piano or a guitar. Like I feel like piano and guitar are like really the bread and butter instruments that just like anybody might be able to play.
Yeah.
And I feel like the first time that I started being aware of ukuleles as like things that just like people would have and play was like maybe when I was 14 or 15. I was like on a youth group trip and one of my friends just like had a ukulele and was just like playing it in the van and stuff. And like everyone was like so shocked and impressed by this fact, which retrospectively I'm like, yeah, ukulele, like not that it wasn't great, but like a ukulele isn't that hard to play.
That's I mean, truly, the basic chord patterns are a lot. I feel like people think it's harder than it is.
Yes.
But like once you get used to moving your fingers in that way.
And have a little bit of calluses.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And then I feel like by the time I was going to college, it was like everybody had a ukulele. Especially like people who are slightly alternative in some way, like hipsters or who just like really like to hike. Because again, you can bring your ukulele on your hike because it's small and portable.
Of course.
And so it's like just like walking around campus. It was like the two main instruments that you would see out was like people with their hammock and a ukulele or like people sitting on the grass playing an ocarina. Those were like the two things.
Okay.
Caleb and I actually have this crab ocarina that one of our friends gave us for our wedding, who he plays ocarina.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, but now you have to teach us.
Right.
And he's like, are you actually gonna like at any point request these ocarina lessons?
Sure.
It will happen, Ryan.
Okay.
If you're listening to this, it will happen.
All right.
Because we have a crab ocarina. You can't just not play that.
You have to play it.
You have to.
You definitely have to play it. I try so hard to get my son to learn this, because this is like a very like old man dad kind of thing. But I really feel like had I picked this up when I was young, I would be great. And I just want to like teach him a song, and he's like, "Dad, that's your thing." And I'm like, "Whatever."
Maybe
in
a few years he'll be like, "Wait, I want to do this too."
I think if I get one that has like fins and like flames, I need one that looks like an electric guitar, and then maybe.
True. Or you could start almost being like, maybe this is like manipulative and sadistic. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't recommend this.
No, let's do it. Let's get into it.
You could start being almost like secretive and like protective of it and be like, no, like you can't play the ukulele.
You must never
this
touch.
Is my thing, or like this is my special ukulele time.
Yeah.
And then after a while, he'll be like, wait, I want in on this as well.
No, he's too crafty. He'd see right through it. I do covet an electric
outcraft.
ukulele. I do covet that. I went to Guitar Center. There's a Guitar Center in Rochester. And, you can just play anything there. And they have this, like, it's like a Fender electric ukulele, so it kind of looks like a classic Fender
just
guitar.
In concept, that's kind of hilarious.
I know. But, like, it works acoustically, but it's got a plug, and so you can, like, It's cool. I feel like that's going to be my next acquisition. I keep looking at them and being like, no, you don't need another one, but I do.
I don't really understand how to play electric stringed instruments.
Really?
Because I feel like the way you do it is not the way that you just like play chords and strum. Which is mostly what I do.
I feel like you really have to sort of like go for it. I mean, you can strum. I mean, I have a mini electric that I play sometimes just strumming, but.
And it's like, I will do finger picking, but I don't like just play notes.
You don't shred?
I do not shred. I'm not just like sitting on my porch shredding. With my classical guitar.
Yeah.
And I feel like also the things that I do finger pick, it's like, Star of the County Down, and it's, like other classic Irish folk tunes and or sea shanties.
Okay.
And I feel like that just wouldn't quite blend with an electric guitar somehow.
I feel like if I was going to make a joke about the kind of things you would play, that's what I would have said. And it's not funny because it's true.
It's true.
It's true.
It can just be funny in that it's true, I guess.
Okay. All right. Now, the first song that I learned how to play from my book was Home on the Range. Are you prepared to give us a little demonstration?
I think so.
Of the Ally Fazmeyer
Home on the Range.
Home on the Range.
I need a D sweater.
Okay.
I feel like I'm getting ready for a fight.
D sweater.
Okay. I need a farm stand at the side of the road, selling corn and sweet peaches to eat. The stalks have grown green and the corn is all right, like pearls of white and of gold. Corn on the cob. It's the tastiest late summer treat. I'll shuck off the peels to reveal the sweet ears, like pearls of white and of gold. Ta-da!
Very impressive. I don't know those lyrics. Where did those lyrics come
I
from?
made those up.
You
They're
made
about
them up?
Corn on the cob.
You wrote a song about... So I told you had to learn to play the ukulele, and not only did you do it, but you wrote a song about corn on the cob.
About corn on the cob. Well, here's what happened.
Okay, tell me.
So, you know how like August is loosely corn season?
Sure.
And we're in August right now.
Yeah.
And Caleb and I had gotten some corn on the cob from
Yeah.
a farm stand, and we were having it for dinner. And like earlier in the day, I'd been practicing the ukulele,
Yeah.
and I'd been playing Home on the Range. So
Okay.
I still had it in my head. And we were sitting at the dinner table, and because, as any totally sane person
Yeah.
does, I just kind of sing about what I'm doing in my life.
I do
started
that.
singing Corn on the Cob.
Okay.
And I realized that corn on the cob works
It's
very
perfect.
well for
It is.
home on the range.
Yeah. Hats off. Yeah.
So then I was like, now I feel like I'm committed to writing a whole set of lyrics about
Yeah.
corn on the cob. And so that then when I'm like, oh yeah, I totally learned Home on the Range, Nick. I
That's
just made a
above and
small
beyond.
alteration.
yeah.
The whole song is about corn on the cob.
But you did play the song. You did play the song expertly. I liked your strumming too. I feel like you were mixing up some strumming patterns in there too.
Yeah, usually when I strum, and I feel like maybe this is again because like I self-taught myself guitar for the most part.
Yeah.
I just kind of strum however I feel like
Yeah.
strumming. And mostly it works.
Yeah.
Occasionally
Strumming is the hardest part, I feel like. You know, if some songs just like don't work if you're just doing like a bum ba dum ba dum ba da, you know. Drives my wife crazy when
occasionally
I do that.
I'll like try and find a certain strumming pattern that'll work with a certain song.
Yeah.
Or like I was trying to play Riptide, and I did ask my dad for advice about the strumming pattern because I was like trying a few different things
Yeah.
and none of them were working.
Mm-hmm.
And the strumming pattern that you're supposed to use for Riptide is not one that I ever would have just like accidentally stumbled across. So I think that was probably a good call.
Yeah.
But yeah, by and large I just kind of go for it and see what happens.
Okay. That's pretty good. I was I played a lot of like Mike Nesmith's song. Mike Nesmith's from the Monkees, but he's got this song called Joanne, which I really like on the ukulele. I play that one a lot. Like that was sort of my practice one because it hit a lot of common chords and had a couple of like difficult transitions and stuff. And so that was like one of my main practice songs. So I played that a lot. A Place in the Sun by Stevie Wonder also has cool chords in it, but is relatively easy to get through. The Galileo by the Indigo Girls, and then I was in the Addams Family last year, whenever that was, and there's ukulele stuff in there, and Fester has this song called The Moon and Me that he plays on the ukulele in the show, technically a banjo-lele, which I also want a banjo-lele.
Understandable.
It's such a nice and pretty song, and I play that one all the time, so like it was just right place, right time. But
Incredible.
those are definitely
But you
in my
still
head.
haven't watched Wednesday, right? Even though you
I
were
only watched
in
the first
Addams
episode.
Family? Okay, well, that's not what I'm having you try today.
I gotta
but
get back to it.
It'll happen.
It's coming. Okay,
It's coming.
All
I
right.
mean, if you don't just watch it of your own
Yeah.
accord, then I have to make
Yeah.
you. That's clearly how
my
this
own
works.
accord, Allie. Okay, you had one other assignment, and that
Yes.
was the House
the theme
Things
from House Things.
theme, written by my good friend Ben Lehman, coming up on his birthday. Happy birthday, Ben!
Happy birthday, Ben.
So you got it. You got House Things.
I think so.
Okay.
I feel like this one might not be as good, partly because it's just like it's a small enough like chunk
Yeah.
that it's like I do it a couple times and I'd be like I mean I feel like
Okay.
I feel like I've drilled it.
All
I
right.
don't
I'll
know.
be
We'll
the
see.
judge.
We'll
All
see.
right. Mic it. Ba, 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 ba. Yay!
Thanks for tuning into House
That's
Things.
right. Old school. I love
See,
it.
that was the thing. Every time I would end, I'd be like, just like a little voice in my head basically would say, thanks for tuning
Yeah.
into House Things.
Yeah. All of Ben's themes for both the All the Book Show and House Things were just so perfect. He just had
they
the
were really
coolest,
good.
like it just feels exactly right. And that's a skill that I don't have. I would just
Yeah.
text him and be like, I need something for this.
Just
and
make
he'd,
it
he'd be
up.
like, I don't know. How about this? And I'd be like, that is perfect. That's
Yeah.
as if you went into my brain and
I really admire that.
got
Well, and
exactly
especially
what I
because
wanted.
it's like I can write lyrics about corn on the cob if the
You sure
music
can.
is already provided.
You sure can.
But I can't, like, I couldn't start from scratch and write
Yeah.
a whole song about corn on the
Yeah.
cob, I don't think.
I bet you could, but I think you're selling yourself short.
Well,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it and also play an instrument. Like, I could make up a melody, but I would not be able to accompany it in
I
any
see.
way,
Okay.
which is a little bit of a
Yeah.
hindrance. But
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'm also so impressed by Corey's song.
I know. That's what I mean. Like both, like all iterations of the Library podcast have had just like super great music.
Yes.
And I love both
absolutely.
versions of the But Have You Tried music as well. I don't think that would work on a ukulele, but maybe we need to get Corey to do
Yeah.
a special.
I was thinking about that. I was like, is that something you could play on a ukulele? We'll have to ask her.
We will. Yeah, we'll check with her.
I know she plays ukulele, so
we'll check with her.
This is a possibility.
Well, I mean, from my amateur judgment, I feel like you've done a great job. I feel like you got it. I feel like you got both of them, and I feel like maybe there's a ukulele in your future. I feel like
that could definitely happen.
So, are you and I going to go on tour, like playing ukulele together
around
all the libraries? Maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe. Let's leave it at that. But it's possible. Okay. Well, I think this was a pretty good assignment for you. So I hope that you're generous to me in return. I mean, I did make you learn an instrument, but I still feel like it was fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so I know you enjoy the ukulele and, just fiddling around and strumming a little bit. But I also know that you like, watching TV shows and just kicking back and relaxing.
I do.
But I don't think you've seen this one, so I'm wondering, have you tried Joan of Arcadia?
I haven't, but my wife loves Joan of Arcadia, but I've never seen it. Not at all.
Okay, that makes so much sense. Also, everything I hear about Hillary's taste is just immaculate.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, it seems like, if you guys were trapped in an elevator together, the time would pass quickly. You'd be fine. You'd be like, oh, no, we're good. We're good. Just leave the elevator closed. Joan of Arcadia.
Joan of Arcadia.
All right.
So what this is, for those of our listeners who maybe don't just happen to know this.
Yes.
It's a TV show that aired in, I think, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it follows a family, mostly a girl who's in high school. I want to say she's like 16 maybe.
Yeah.
And as she's just going about her life, God appears to her in the form of like random people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be like each episode, usually God will appear to her in some strange person kind of form.
So is it like a situation where you're like, oh, is that one God? Is that one God? Or
sometimes.
Is it very clear?
And there's sometimes when she's like, wait, is it? Are you?
Okay.
Which is always very interesting. And so God will like give her assignments. He'll be like, oh, I need you to pick up some cream of wheat on the way home from school. And she'll be like, what the heck? Why? But a lot of times, sometimes she ends up being able to see kind of the results of what that did.
Wait, is Joan of Arcadia just Quantum Leap? Because it sounds like...
I don't know. I don't know if I know anything about Quantum Leap.
Ooh, future assignment. Let me write this down.
Making notes.
In Quantum Leap, Sam Beckett leaps into other people's lives to fix a problem and then moves on to the next thing.
Okay.
So it's like a problem
it's similar,
of the week
but
of
it's
show.
Like everything is very, very connected to her own life and her family's life.
Okay.
So, and it also follows the rest of her family a little bit. She has two brothers. One's a big science nerd. The other was a jock, but got in a car accident, and so he's in a wheelchair.
Okay.
Her mom, who's played by Mary Steenburgen.
I love her.
Right?
Yeah.
And her dad is like the police chief. So there's also a little bit of like some police procedural kind of elements mixed in.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
I feel like it's a real fun mix.
Okay,
I think you'll
long
like
did
it.
that show run?
There's only like 2 seasons, and I want to say that the second season is like weirdly short or something like that. I don't know how much of it you want to watch.
Okay.
I feel like maybe if you want to watch at least like the first 4 or 5 episodes.
Okay.
But if you're like loving it and want to just binge it, I support you.
All right. We'll see. I see it's 2 seasons, 45 episodes.
Okay.
So we'll see.
45 episodes might be a lot in a month, but I feel
you think 5 episodes?
I feel like the first 5 really do land a lot of the things that make the show itself.
Okay.
But also, if Hillary is like, no, you got to watch.
Yeah.
You gotta watch more
once
of it,
we start, I don't know if it'll happen in a month, but once we start, we'll have to see it through, I'm sure. There's no way to avoid that. So, yeah, this is a great cast. Joe Mantegna is looked like the dad, I guess. And Amber Tamlin, I loved on House, but I haven't seen this. Jason Ritter, yeah, good cast. Good cast. Okay. I think this is a fair assignment.
I'm glad to hear
and
it.
I will embrace it with gusto. All right. Well, in 2 weeks, we'll be back to talk about all the things we've been watching and reading. Find out what new songs Ally's learned on the ukulele. Maybe you'll get Riptide. Maybe you won't. Do you have it?
I made good progress on it.
Okay.
The one thing is you're supposed to do chucking during the chorus, which I've worked on a lot, but it doesn't quite sound right because it's like, you know how it gets the sound of the chord, but then it also like mutes it.
Right.
And it's like usually I can do one or the other. Like either it's just kind of like a tap on the strings, or it's like it takes twice as long as all the other chords because I had to strum it and then quickly mute it. We're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to hear about all of your progress. So we'll be talking movies, books, Duolingo streaks.
Absolutely.
On our next episode. So we'll see you then, everybody.
Bye.